Thank you so much. I think I found your contribution particularly helpful for a student of the Muridiya, and you have suggested important sources to deepen our understanding of Shaykh Ahmadou Bamba's philosophy and practices of non-violence. But you raise really a question that I find particularly interesting. You use here the concept of self-defense, which most of the time people do not associate with non-violence. And I would like to invite Dr. Pirzada to comment on two concepts that actually came in Sheikh Saibou's own questions, the question of pacifism and the question of self-defense. Can we reconcile those two terms, pacifism, self-defense, and non-violence, in the writing and thinking of Ahmadou Bamba? Or if they are different, how do you parse those differences?
Okay. Funnily enough, you've touched on something that does trouble me here. What troubles me here is that we can see the non-violence of Ahmadou Bamba and interpret it as pacifism. What I would like to, I'd like to use a term with regard to Ahmadou Bamba. What I would call it, it's like I can't say vigorous non-violence. This doesn't make sense in English. Something like activist non-violence. You need some term like this, because Ahmadou Bamba was anything other than a pacifist. I think the brother, the way he spoke, more or less reflects my ideas. That if you see in the life of Ahmadou Bamba, if he was a person of a certain spiritual station of non-violence, he was so active in terms of creating a vibrant community. This is vibrant non-violence. Also, non-violence of Ahmadou Bamba is not turning the other cheek non-violence. This is not it either. I see nothing wrong with the brothers and sisters in a community learning self-defense. I see nothing wrong with them learning martial arts. We teach our children here in London, we teach them boxing. I myself have boxed in competitions. So there's nothing wrong with this at all. So going to inner city communities in America and educating them in the teaching of Ahmadou Bamba, making real humans out of them, and at the same time training them physically, is a great thing. I see the situation in America as a situation where you can't afford to be weak. And when I was in Los Angeles, some of the gangs had become Muslims, and they dealt with gang life, in an Islamic way. And I see. Not to speak too much about this, to answer you very directly, the non-violence of Ahmadou Bamba, as far as I understand it, involves self-defense, involves human dignity, involves not bowing to oppression. It involves all those things. But the goal is to try to change the other person as well, to change the other person. Your high moral position, your supreme moral example is what changes the other person. So that's part of it as well. But to answer you directly, I don't see this non-violence as pacifism at all. I see it as very activist non-violence, which seeks to integrate certain higher principles into society, but in a vigorous manner. Sometimes it may be necessary for people to defend themselves. I think self-defense is no offense would be a slogan that Muslims would profit from. So that's how I see the non-violence of Ahmadou Bamba.
Thank you so much. If I don't have another reaction, I would like to build on what Dr. Pirzada said. So could we consider then the idea of passive nonviolence, active nonviolence? Can we make those nuances between the type of nonviolence?
What I think is that what my concern was this. My concern was, when I read the life of Ahmadou Bamba carefully, this is a very, very active life, a life of great activism. And for a person given to study and teaching and worship, the degree to which he involved himself in society to create a viable society, I think I feel that the desire to speak about Ahmadou Bamba as a very active, socially active person. When we use the word pacifism, the problem with that is we seem to, there are religions, particularly Eastern religions, where non-violence involves yourself. What in the Hindu religion, there's a Sanskrit term called vairagya, which means that you are desireless. You are sort of like, you're in a condition of desirelessness where you can even be separated from society. So Ahmadou Bamba's non-violence is certainly, without any doubt, socially active non-violence. That's the distinction I want to draw. That there is a social activism, a vigorous social activism in Muridiya, a work ethic as well. The work ethic and the vigorous social activism is the distinction I'm looking for.
Thank you. Shaykh Ahmadou, would you like to add something to further clarify your own intervention?
Yeah. Because so many people think that if we say non-violence, it means like Sayyidina Masih, Sayyidina the Christ, when he said, if someone, how to say, if someone knock your head, give him the other side. And that means you, a Muslim or a believer must accept the badness in the society. And that is not the teaching of Islam. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "Man ra'a minkum munkaran falyughayyirhu, fa in lam yastati' fa bi lisanihi, fa in lam yastati' fa bi qalbihi, wa dhalika ad'afu al-iman." If someone see munkar, something wrong, something bad in the society, he must act to change this negative thing in his life according to his means. If he can change it by his hand, like using weapon, we can say that you have to do. And if you can't, you have to use another mean, by your tongue, by your speech, by your something like trying to be active in society to change the bad things that happen in the society. If you can't to use all this at the time, you can change the things in your heart. And so many people think that the Sufi are pacific, non-violent. They don't use weapons. They are they stay in their how to say the al-khawaniq and the real Islam and the real teaching of Shaykh Ahmadou Bamba is to be active, to try to change the bad things, but in the best way. In this case of Shaykh Ahmadou Bamba, we see that he lived in a society invaded by the colonial. They want to change their belief, their culture, their civilization, their way of life. All these is bad things, as munkar, as the Prophet said. And Shaykh Ahmadou Bamba, has Ahmadou Bamba stay non-active and regarding the bad things happen in the society without reacting, without doing nothing? No. Shaykh Ahmadou Bamba was very active, and he used the teaching of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to change these bad things, because in our history we see so many other religious leaders who use weapons, like Shaykh Omar al-Futi, like Maba Jahuba, and other religious leaders, and other even kings like Lat Dior or something like that. But Shaykh Ahmadou Bamba don't use all these methods, because if that would lead the people, the population to destruction. So he used the best way to self-defense, to protect his people, is al-jihad bil-ulum bil-tuqa. And that is a continuation of the method of the prophets. There's nothing new, there's nothing, what they say, bid'ah in this approach, in this method of jihad. Is just ihya wa tajdid, is just revival of the way of the Prophet, because Shaykh Ahmadou Bamba was a mujaddid. So all he used to do in his life must be in accordance with the teaching of the Prophet ﷺ. That's why he used the Islamic term Islamic reference to find a good solution for the problem of his people, of his time.
Thank you.
That I want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So listening to you, Sheikh Soaibu, and listening to Ahmad, I was reminding of this thinking attributed to Ghazali. And of course, we know that who Ghazali he is. When we think of Shaykh Ahmadou Bamba, he called him master. And Ghazali is reported to saying that the attitude of the ulama or the cleric toward the unjust ruler should be fight him with the tongue, the pen first, and if that can lead to fitna, then fight him with the tongue. And if fighting him with the tongue might lead to fitna, then hate him in your heart. Don't love him.
Yeah.
So this is what Ghazali said. And Shaykh Ahmadou Bamba himself, being a disciple of Ghazali, we clearly know that his thinking on non-violence was actually informed by Ghazali. And one thing you said, Serigne Soaibu, was the idea of Shaykh Ahmadou Bamba understanding clearly that military confrontation with the French would lead to the destruction of his people and of people. In fact, people will lose life. And that is the same attitude actually he had against also the rulers of the Wolof kingdoms before the coming of the French. So Shaykh Ahmadou Bamba has not changed. He has not varied his attitude toward the French. He was just continuing the same trajectory that he was in under the Wolof colonization. So Ahmed, then my idea here is, what do you make of the concept of maslaha then? Maslaha, the common good. So how does the concept of maslaha then fit in Shaykh Ahmadou Bamba's idea and philosophy about non-violence?
First, I'd like to say that to summarize the discussion to this point, and then we'll get to maslaha. You know, Al-Ghazali was reacting to the political problems of his time. So he was giving a response of what was possible in his time. Ahmadou Bamba was reacting to his time and given to that time. But I think my conclusion from a lot of reading of Ahmadou Bamba is that I think what Ahmadou Bamba is teaching us is the way to spread Islam in this time. That here we are in a time where we are living in societies where we can speak of Islam. You know, you can in your society, I can in my society. So we have this openness. There was a scholar, Yusuf al-Qaradawi, you may know him. He said that maybe we're in a time where you don't need to by force enter into a city to speak about Islam. You don't need to do jihad to open a city to speak of Islam. We're in a situation where we can actually go on an aeroplane and establish a conference for Ahmadou Bamba in any city in the world. So maybe in this time, the struggle is ujahidu bil ulumi wa tuqa, to struggle with knowledge and to struggle in terms of the example you're giving in terms of taqwa. I found even amongst Westerners, they only appreciate a logical argument. As I said, I was speaking privately before to Sheikh, and I was saying that I took some intellectual Westerners to some of the top shuyukh in the world, and they were very unimpressed, because what they wanted from the shuyukh was convincing intellectual arguments about spiritual matters. So this is what I think is what Ahmadou Bamba is teaching us, is how do you give da'wah in this time. Now, coming to the idea of maslaha, you see, it must be a Muslim, any scholar in any era, Ahmadou Bamba included, must adopt the idea of maslaha. That you must look at any situation. Maslaha or mafsada is how you weigh things up. What is the benefit and what is the harm in doing something? That's the only way a Muslim looks at it. A Muslim, the hadith of the Prophet, you are not a believer is not stung from the same hole twice. In other words, he uses wisdom, he uses understanding, he looks at what's the benefit of this, what is the harm of this. So any fatwa that any alim who I've sat in front of has given has always been on the basis of maslaha or mafsada. That's the way a Muslim looks at it. What is the benefit and what is the harm? So, you know, in Ahmadou Bamba's time, it was obviously of no benefit at all for people who are living, you know, mainly in villages, to try to take on a French army which has modern weapons at their disposal. It was not possible to defeat this army in this way. What could be done, though, is Islam could have been, he established the basis for Islam to grow. For Islam to survive in Senegal and to grow. and to create communities, functioning communities. Now, you know, there are many great sheikhs in the past. There's Abdul Qadir Jilani, Imam al-Ghazali, and so on. But they didn't leave communities behind. Ahmadou Bamba left a functioning community behind. So that's one of the great achievements of Ahmadou Bamba, that a community of believers that was based on teaching Islam and establishing economically independent units, you know, was a great innovation that Ahmadou Bamba left behind. That's how Islam survived in Senegal, I think. So yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So that's to answer your question. You can never look at any situation without the idea of maslahah. That has to be the basis of any understanding in any situation.
Thank you so much. So I had a sign coming from Sidi Njai. Sidi, do you want to open the floor to others to ask questions or to comment?
Maybe we can allow for one question. I know that Lamin Mbaki have pinged me earlier for a question. Maybe let's open the mic for Lamin Mbaki because the third panel is already checking in.
All right. So Sheikh Lamin, you have the floor.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Be in this panel, and I was very impressed with the work of Dr. Pirzada, and at the same time also with my cousin Srin Shwai Bukebe. I actually have a question and a comment. And the comment was, if I hear what Dr. Pirzada said and what Srin Shwai said, it looks like the Shaykh Ahmadou Bamba, who said, Ujahid bil ulum wa bituqa. And like the professor said, he put the right strategy according to his time and the challenges facing his time. But I noticing that he was a mujaddid and his main mission was to imitate the Prophet. But regarding the community he left behind, I think the Sheikh told his community that the main purpose of the Murid's war was to try to mirror the Sahabas. I think it's in the wall of saying he was even saying that the Sahabas are your fathers in Deen. Talking about nonviolence, talking about work ethics, talking about successful economic behavior, talking about political influence. And actually it's very interesting to me because I'm going to be presenting later on a presentation on Murid economics, which I call Muridonomics, which I had the opportunity to introduce in 2017 at the United Nations, and which I'm working with an international university to publish a book, maybe by 2021. But the bottom line here, I noticed in what you both said is Shaykh Ahmadou Bamba's mission was to revive Islam and to spread Islam. And what we can learn from that, while sticking to true Islamic teachings, while trying to imitate the Prophet, while trying to mirror the Sahabas from his community, you can find that there's a lot of benefits, regarding nonviolence, regarding work ethics, regarding political. So you can have a lot of scholars, pinpointing the advantages of his teaching, the success of the Murids in economy and nonviolence and everything. But the bottom line is his focus was on to revive in Islam and to imitate the prophets, which is to say that my personal conclusion, I don't know what your I think Shaykh Ahmadou Bamba is an example of somebody who understood Islam more than anybody else, but who practiced also Islam more than anybody else. Because if you look at the Maqasid Sharias, if you look at the Maslahas, if Islam is perfectly practiced, you see a lot of advantages from that. From Islam that a lot of conventional secular systems are looking for.
All right, thank you. Ahmad, so we'll give you last word. I think we're almost up. Okay. Our time is almost up. I'll give you the last word.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Lamin, I'm actually a lecturer of economics in London. I lecture at London University. The point is that all of the ills that the Western economy suffers from, all of this riba-based system that they have, which is mainly to do with speculation, where 97% of the money is actually created by hitting a switch. Only 3% of money that they have in their economy is actually from government mints. So this situation where money has no real relation to reality, this is precisely what an Islamic economy will actually prevent from happening, where you have asset-backed finance. So very true. I'm very interested in world economics. I wonder why you don't have a microeconomics project in Senegal. That's an excellent country where you give people small amount of loans. They can take a machine, sew clothes and sell them, for example. Exactly what was done in Bangladesh can be done in Senegal. I thought, when I looked at this country, I was there in 2018 for the Magal. I thought this is a great country for microfinance. You know, microfinance would be a wonderful project there. Yeah, there are many things that can be done according to Ahmadou Bamba's teachings. If he created dairas which were, you know, planting groundnuts, I'm sure if he was here today, he would, you know, be very high tech and deal with all the modern financial realities as they need to be dealt with. So yes, I think if you're writing a book on Murid economics, that's a great thing, because Ahmadou Bamba gives a very broad ability, a very broad-based brush for you to paint an economic picture from. So that's a great thing. I would love to see microfinance in the villages of Senegal. That would be a fantastic thing. I would love to see development happen in Senegal in that way. Yeah, so I do think it's very important that we have our own economic ideas, because I think within our lifetime we can see the crash of capitalism. From what I'm seeing, very quickly this system can come to an end. And the IMF and other institutions are looking at Islamic economics. Christian Lagarde says something positive about it. The IMF have done many studies of Islamic economics, meaning that they realize their system could come to an end. Okay, I won't speak anymore because I think the next people are waiting. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmad Pirzada. Thank you so much, Sirin Shuaibu Kebe, and thank you so much those who join us today. I think you've learned a lot today, and I am confident that we will keep the conversation going. Thank you so much, and see you at another time. Bye-bye.